call the meeting to order. If you could all join me for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out here to Erin this evening for our budget presentation. Item 2, the format for the meeting this evening is we will have presentations on special ed, of the athletic department, and the benefits overview. As always, there is a public comment period for our board policy. And in terms of the budget meeting, that public comment period is after that presentation is made. We just ask that everyone state their name and address prior to speaking. Thank you. So we'll move on to item 3. Ms. Bouvet.
Good evening. So tonight is our 3rd budget development workshop. So I'll be taking you through our recent updates, and you'll be hearing from our athletic and special education departments on their budgets. And after that, I'll take you through an overview of the benefit section of our budget. So here's what we've seen so far to date from the other departments. We've heard from transportation, human resources, facilities, and the technology departments. Their projected 17-18 budgets and the corresponding percentage changes. So when we met last, we had total expenditures of $76.2 million with anticipated revenues that we know of at this time of just shy of $71 million for a $5.2 million budget gap. At this point, we're still just waiting for the final state budget. What we're hearing is there may be potential for a little bit more money, but probably not a whole lot. We're going to wait and see what comes at the beginning of April. So once we have that, we'll go through the rest of these tools between the tax levy, budget reductions, how we want to use our fund balance and reserves to close our budget gap. So with that, I'll introduce Kim Williams to present her student services special education budget.
Okay, we'll start with the first line. The first line was salaries, and that's our contractual obligations. The next 3 lines, equipment, contractual, conference, and supplies. We kind of reallocated some of the money between the lines, and we knew we needed to spend them in certain lines, like equipment or contractual or supplies. So we kind of played with those this year, what we needed. The next line is the BOCES. We've had a huge increase in the number of students needing BOCES programs. We've had a lot of students move in that have had BOCES on their IEPs, so we've had to use that and do that. A lot of other kids that have come in that have needed the BOCES services as well. It's kind of hit and miss. You just never know what you're going to get, and you've heard that before. You just don't know what services kids are going to need when they move in. And then some of it, there's been an increase in some of those services across the board, so that hasn't helped us either.
Kim, in regards to the BOCES number, you got 17.8 FTEs. Mm-hmm. Is that what we pay for in district or through the BOCES programming that we have to contract for?
I think it's the BOCES programs that we have to contract for. So
they aren't necessarily located in district. They could be over at Bush or another school, Elmira.
Yeah.
Okay.
The next slide is just the positions in the student services and the breakdown of their salary. And again, the positions that we have to run student services special ed. Again, those are the contractual obligations. And the last slide is asking for a special ed teacher to meet compliance requirements for the projected numbers of the special ed students for next year.
So that's in addition to the budget already presented, correct?
Yeah. Any questions? Looks like, oh, yes, sir.
Under the teaching assistant, I know I talked about this earlier with Katie. We have a significant number of teaching assistants compared to instructional staff?
Mhm.
In other words, when you see 52.5, how are they dispersed? Is it necessary? Is it because of one-on-one? In other words, a little bit more behind that, because if I was outside looking in, I'd be saying, wow, we have more teaching assistants than teachers.
Mhm. Well, we have on the IEPs are 12-1-1, so we have the one on the IEP, so yes, we have to have those in the classrooms. 15-1 is just a teacher and 15 students. We do have TAs in the resource room, so that's where some of those numbers are. I don't have a number off the top of my head how many one-on-ones we have. We have some one-on-ones that we've had a couple of medical needs kids that we've had to pair with some of the students that we've had to have for this year. But as far as the breakdown, if it's on the IEP, we have it. I don't have a number off the top of my head of how many one-on-ones we have.
Do we use entirely teaching assistants, or do we use a combination of aides and assistants?
Just teaching assistants. Anything else? Looks like we'll talk about athletics.
Good evening. Start off with our athletic budget overview, starting with our salaries. We have about 58 teams with 65 coaches, so actually our salary increases dropped a little there. Total supervisors, lifeguards basically stayed the same. Our times and scores are for all our events modified to varsity. Our supervisors, that went up just a little bit there to 30,000. And then our stipends, which include, varsity H, athletic manager, athletic study hall, up slightly, salary up to 2,000. So around about a $5,000 increase with our salaries. Now to the overview, contractual. I think Katie and Dr. Douglas was over the year, and last year especially, really trying to get my budget into a working order with my supplies, contractual. We were able to get our uniform order in line. I think going into next year, basically all our varsity teams should have received new uniforms. So over the last 3 years, we were caught up with new uniforms. Also thank Mike Codman Facilities. He's been able to be generous with new scoreboard on the athletic field and the fence that goes on the baseball field. So he's able to pick up those large items for athletics. So basically, you look through the supplies and equipment. From the increases from last year's budget, everything has basically stayed the same. And because of the slight salary increase, the overall budget increase is 0.79.
Is your budget more in line now with what you actually spend versus how it's been? Like when I came in, you were always in need of something?
I'm still making minor adjustments per team because we have all the budget lines per team, but I think I'm more in a working order. I think I'm more in line with what I need. Yeah.
Katie, would you agree this number's more in line with that expectation?
Yeah, and I know, just looking at it, looks like he kept a lot of his codes flat with the 15-17 budget. The first budget's a little unique where it's broken down by sport within all of those codes. So he's done a lot of work reallocating his money between the sports where he expects to spend it versus just keeping it the way it's been all this time. He has done a great job looking at his codes.
So our hope is like even next year's budget
Yep.
is now very accurate, and now we should start seeing how it should progressively grow.
Yep, so we'll work with them and we'll continue to fine tune it each year and really get it where it needs to be.
And I would like to say that I think within the last year and a half, I have taken the burden off the booster clubs a little bit with supplies. Currently the school district should be paying for, upon my arrival. So we're caught up with the major supplies or needs that the teams need. So.
Can you just tell me what it means under contractual? What does that cover? Is that your uniforms?
No, contractual is the dues for the league, dues for the section, anything invitational. When our kids go to states, so basically anything that's a due or a cost to, we certainly enter something that's contractual.
Thank you.
to walk you through the benefits section of our budget. It's a rather significant portion, and I feel it's important for you to see what makes up that number. One of the bigger portions in the budget is our employment retirement contribution and our teachers' retirement contribution. I believe I mentioned prior at another budget workshop, you were going to see a decrease in these two particular budget codes due to the fact we were trying to be conservative and plan for the future when the contribution rates went back up, but given the current funding scenarios we're currently seeing from the state, it's not really wise at this point to really hold on to too much of that savings, so there's a reduction there. Social Security, you'll see an increase there. That's based on the number of employees that we have, based on their current salaries for the year that we're paying this to FICA Medicare contribution. Our health admin fees, we currently have 22 different health plans that we administer between our active and retiree employees. So there is a fee associated with each of those plans to administer, to have those plans administered. And that also includes our administration fees for our stop loss coverage. And due to our recent experience, we are expecting to see an increase in those premium costs. Health claims, that includes active and retiree health claims. We've kept that flat right now for 17-18. Last year they ended up at 13.3 million, so we may reevaluate where we're standing now with our health claims and what we want to do with this line going forward. Health contributions are based on contractual agreements, what each contractual unit agrees to pay towards their health plan. It's based on the premium equivalent. We are seeing an increase in that contribution this year, so while it shows a negative, it's an offset to an expense, so it's actually a positive impact for us. Dental claims and admin, that's obviously for any dental claims that we have to pay for. Workers' compensation is our insurance premium for our workers' compensation plan. The Affordable Care Act fees, when the Affordable Care Act came on board, there were certain fees we were required to pay. We are seeing a decrease to 17-18 due to one of the fees no longer being required. The transitional reinsurance fee was a 3-year obligation from the district. 16-17 is the last year. And then finally, we have a few other miscellaneous obligations such as unemployment insurance, disability, flex benefits, and optical. So with all that, we are seeing a decrease in our overall benefits budget of $883,000 at this point, primarily due to the adjustments to the TRS accounts and the increase in health contributions. Any questions on those?
So when you said last year we spent about $13 million for health claims, that was the 2015-16 school year?
Yes.
And so how are we running so far this year?
We're a little ahead of last year. I'm going to get updated numbers next week, but the last report I saw we're on par, but we're a little ahead. Some of that we'll get back in stop loss payments, but that is a different line than that.
Under the other category,
Yeah.
should that be a minus 2,000 or a plus 2,000?
Should be a plus 2,000. Thank you.
With the political climate on the Affordable Care Act, we have a contract with some company that keeps us in line. If that is revoked under the political climate, are we going to get rid of that contract too?
We'll see how the Affordable Care Act is reformed, replaced, whatever the plan may be, and what obligations will be placed on the district for tracking and monitoring and things like that. If it's going to be similar to how the plan is now, we'll keep them. But if it's something completely different and we don't need them, then yes, we would eliminate that service.
I think we have to be very cautious because of the instability, but we're also going to have to seek legal counsel in regards to that as everybody learns a little bit more about what are the potential outcomes or pitfalls.
Thank you.
Katie, just a question to make sure I understand your comments regarding the ERS and the TRS. The way I interpreted what you said, correct me if I'm wrong, is basically, we were historically have tried to put a little extra in there to kind of build up some rainy day fund, but in light of the need for that money elsewhere in the budget, we're sort of decreasing that, and that's why you see the decrease here.
That's correct.
Okay, but the amount that we were putting in is still, you know, adequate
To pay our obligations.
Yeah.
Yes, yep.
In other words, what we were trying to do is hold it at around 13%, even though it's down to around 9%, and yes, that would give us a cushion.
pretty big cushion.
But the problem is we don't ever know what's going to happen. So with the financials that we have to try to offset some of our increased costs, we really had to bring it down to what the state's recommending. Our problem is we need to do a 20-year analysis of that and see where the actual trend is and try never to go below that.
Right, it's at 9 now, but as it was a few years ago, go back up, and that's
Correct.
the,
And as far as the ERS goes, we do have the benefit of a pretty healthy ERS reserve. So if we did see a significant spike in the rates that we needed a little assistance smoothing out our budget to accommodate that, we can utilize that reserve. Any other questions? So to what Dr. Douglas was saying, here's a 20-year history of the TRS employer contribution rates. To the left is the actual rate, to the right is the visual chart. So you can see, 20 years ago, it was a completely different story to what we're dealing with now. The 10-year average, back, the beginning of those 20 years was 3.75 versus the 10-year average we're looking at the current 10 years of 11.4. And the total 20-year average of what we've seen is 7.57. Same for ERS, significant difference looking 20 years ago to what we're dealing with today. So this will be the update of where we stand with the budget right now. As I said at the beginning of the presentation, we had a budget gap of 5.19 at our last budget workshop. Since then, I've made some adjustments to the budget. I added $62,000 to the revenue side out of our debt service reserve. When we sold the Broad Street building, one of the requirements of the sale of property is to take from the proceeds the amount of debt still outstanding on that building, which is around $184,000. The debt on Broad Street matures in 3 years, so we have 3 years to use that set aside. So I took what we had and I'm just going to allocate it over the next 3 years. That mostly offsets the loss in building aid we see from selling that building. We had some minor adjustments to salary and benefits, just some mid-year contractual changes. So as obviously as salaries go up, some of the corresponding benefits go up as well. We had a small $42,000 decrease in one of our BOCES coasters, so that's there, and I've added Kim's special education teacher request, and that $77,000 represents salary and benefits. So with those changes, it goes from 5.19 to a gap of 5.23. So again, as I said before, we have these tools at our disposal. Just an item of note on the business side of the agenda tonight is the resolution for the retirement incentive. If the board chooses to approve that, that'll be one of the budget reductions I'll look at between now and the next budget workshop, and you'll see the impact of that next time. Also on the 23rd, you'll have on your agenda the adoption of our annual legal notice. On that, we'll have our the proposition for the budget vote, the bus proposition that you saw when Pete Wilcox presented his budget. We'll have an election for 3 Board of Education seats. Those petitions can be picked up in the business office between 8 and 3 during the week. Any questions on that? So one item related to the legal notice we wanted to discuss with you is the potential of increasing our current current capital reserve from $10 million to $15 million. That would give us the opportunity, as we close our books at the end of June, if we have any funds over and above our 4%, we could place them into the capital reserve and save that money for our Horseheads 2030 project. Any thoughts on that?
One of the issues why we have to bring it up is because with the legal notice, we're obligated to approve that legal notice at the next board meeting. So we wanted to see if there was any concerns. I know we've discussed it in the past, but not really come to any decision point. But if we are going to do something even in time for potentially the Horseheads 2030 referendum, if the board gets there for October, you'd have to have it already in place before that referendum, if you were going to access it. There's another process if you didn't put anything in that you can access funds that you have as well, but this just gives you all the tools available. Does not mean we have to fund it with any funds whatsoever. We can stay right at 10 million. But without that, if we had, say we ended like last year in the black by, say, $1.5 million, we may not have any place to put that savings or surplus for that year to carry forward. This allows you that opportunity if you wish. So our question would be, is the board okay with us preparing that to go forward and ask the voters if they would consider approving that?
Mr. Johnson?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea if we can put as much of the taxpayers' money aside to hopefully fund the 2030 project. And yeah, with the caveat that we don't have to do it. But
Yeah, we'd write that into the language.
and I would really like to see our board get below the 4% reserve, if not this year, in the near future, to be truly compliant with the state law on that.
I would be in favor too. It allows us flexibility. If there's some extra funds available, we can move some into that account, so I would be in favor.
I echo that position. I just have a technical question. Would that be presented as sort of an additional, there's the budget for vote and then there's additional questions such as the bus.
Yep.
So
It's all in.
the vote on that particular question won't, let's say it were negative, it doesn't necessarily impact the
It's its
budget.
own separate.
It's its own separate proposition.
Thank you.
I guess I'm curious as to how we make the decision in terms of budget versus putting something in that fund. So will we have a discussion at some point where
Yeah, the board would.
this program we will not fund because we want to put money in the capital fund, or how will that discussion come about?
Yeah, what happens is, Warren, at the end of every year, we have a discussion about how we're going to end our books with the board. And we have that, I think we did that, what was it, first or second week, first of June or something?
Yeah, it'll be closer towards June.
Yeah, but what we do is we present that with what our plan would be and seek Board of Education authorization to end the year and place certain amounts in certain portions of our reserves so that we end appropriately. Because if we try to move any of it around, we have to have board authorization to do that.
So for example, if our healthcare claims were less than we budgeted and there was excess due to that financial performance, that could be an item you bring to us to say you could use that difference and put it in the reserve.
And you're basically using just that year's amount, putting into the reserve so that you can use it as a one-time expense later. It's how we can carry money forward, but we never use it to offset or cut program to have excess money.
All right, that's
So Warren, in June, when we close our books, we would have already paid for all the programs we currently have on our books. So this would be, if we got some extra revenue or underspent some of our codes, it's just our operating surplus. Gives us the ability to take that surplus after we've already paid for everything we have to put it in a legal recognized reserve.
I understand how that works. I mean, it just kind of seems hard, like, if we're going to make a cut in the budget, or not fund something in April, and then all of a sudden in June, we're told we have all this money. I guess as a board, we don't have the opportunity to go back and say, geez, I would have, knowing that, I would have funded something in April, but the facts in April said we couldn't fund it. That's the, and I guess because of dates, my hypothetical is unrealistic.
No, what happens, I'm just trying to understand the language behind it. We don't really cut things out of the budget in April for this year. If
I know,
anything-
but I'm
Right.
sorry,
But for
going
the next
forward.
year's budget.
Right,
yeah.
going forward, we're saying, so my question is, okay, we can't fund this because of our budget numbers, revenues,
Right.
expenses that we're saying, but then we have excess in June,
Right.
but now we can't
Because we can't roll that
retroactively-
money forward
Right.
into the new budget.
I guess, okay, all right.
Yeah, that's the hard part. I mean, there are little games you can play, but if you play those games, sooner or later, you've got to correct it, because one budget year does not drive the next, and it's got to be separate and distinct.
I'm fine with the program, I just don't want to see us
Yeah, no,
not
we don't want to
fund
do that.
something going forward that,
Agreed.
Just so I get this straight in my own head, let's say we have 3 or 4 budget lines that come in short, and we have money left over. We put it in the capital reserve fund. The next year, these same budget lines go way over for whatever reason. We have a bunch of people need heart bypass surgery or whatever. That money, we can't go back and use that money as a cushion because now it's in the capital budget, right? Once it's in there, we can't
Once
take
it's
it
in
out
there, you
except for
can't.
capital stuff. Okay.
But we have other reserves that we could possibly pull from, too.
Okay.
One of the things is just back on your statement where we have some codes that were short, say this year. All of our codes that are short, if we have any surplus, we have to address those shortages first. And only if there's money left over after we close out the budget can we reallocate that somewhere else. Now, if we ended the budget year with surpluses, now we can allocate that however we need as well, but it won't impact the next year's budget because that money would have already been funded in that budget through our budgeting process. Does that make sense? I just only had an
Well-
issue where you said it was short one year.
Well, I
but
think,
then-
I think maybe when I said the budget came in short, what I meant was we had a surplus. That was-
Okay.
We didn't spend as much
I
money.
was thinking
as
short
we
as
budgeted.
we spent too much money.
No, and we had money left over, we stuck it in the capital reserve, but we couldn't pull it out the next year if those same budget lines went over and we had a shortfall.
Correct.
That's what I was getting
Yeah,
at.
I'm thinking in the reverse from your,
Okay,
the budget.
should have
No problem.
clarified that.
No problem.
So, and to, I guess, take it one step further, if, say at the end of the year we had a surplus and we're deciding where we want to put it, you don't necessarily have to put it into the capital reserve. We do have other reserves that we can put them in, but that still leads to the same issue that, you know, if we come up short the following year, unless you budget to use those reserves, when you adopt the budget that year, you still can't access that money. If you end up with a deficit, you can only use basically your 4% and not the reserves, unless you've budgeted specifically to use those reserves.
Okay. Well, where I was going with that is you have money left over and you stick it in an account that you can't use it except for one specific thing. And that might tie your hands with regard to some other things. But if you're saying we have other reserve accounts that we could backfill, that would take care of the issue, I think.
Yeah, we're just trying, what we're really trying to do is make sure that we have options, because our options are starting to run out and still be in compliance with the Office of the Comptroller's expectation in our audits, but also to try to get closer to the 4% so we meet those avenues, but yet provide us avenues where we could place money if we had the option.
I get that, and I've been hearing about this 4% for 4 years
Yeah.
now. But talk about options, it seems to me as if we're going to sequester money where we can't use it except for a specific purpose, that reduces our options with regard to that money at least. So I just wanted to get that straight in my head.
Yeah, no problem. So if I read the board, everybody's okay with bringing something forward at the next meeting?
Yeah.
I'll have Katie work with James and everybody to get the proper language and wording. And we'll try to have that out in the next update, not this week, but next weekend's update so we can see it.
With our list of our future meetings, at our next Board of Ed meeting, we'll have our budget workshop presentation there, and you'll be hearing about the instructional side of the budget. So, any last minute or last closing questions you may have about what you've heard tonight?
We're hoping that the benefit piece helped because we noticed that was missing. Next year, we'll move that up right on opening night so that you can see that as well.
Thank you.
Okay, on to item 4, the superintendent's report.
As we're in between, a lot of things are happening. We're going from one season to the next. We have a superintendent's conference day tomorrow where we have a lot of training going on at various levels from 8 until about 3. And pretty much everyone is scheduled to the hilt from my schedule to what I've seen that's been put out. So we wish everybody a wonderful day. We have the St. Patrick's Day parade coming up on Saturday. If anybody wants to bring warm hand heaters, I've got 20 bags of candy. If the board is there and would like to walk, please wear something green. Come up front, right behind the white horse. We'll be there, and we've got almost, I believe every school is going to be participating this year. I just wish it was sunny. The band will be there, and it's something that the community comes out for. I've never seen one this cold, but we'll see what it will be like. So many things are happening, and things are going on a rush breakneck pace so that the board knows on the 16th we will be meeting. The only question right now is if it's 5 or 5:30, we will have that in our update. And that will be with Hunt. We will need to go into executive session because we will be talking about some potential proprietary information at that point, but then later be able to give an update during the community session and then the next board meeting. So at that point, Matt, how's things going?
It's going to be cold tomorrow on Saturday.
So, but that would conclude mine at this point. If anybody needs anything, please let me know as we gear up.
Do you want to talk about these resolutions?
You have 2 resolutions that are going to be coming up. One is the retirement incentive resolution that we talked to the board about in executive beforehand because of debt with contracts. Judy would be here, but Judy's out on health leave right at this point. She has used exactly the same incentives that you have used in the past. To date, we had a goal of about $200,000 above and beyond those that had already mentioned to retire. We ended up having roughly about 20 individuals that are availing themselves if this is approved, and it should yield from Judy's calculations somewhere around an additional $400,000 in adjustment to the overall budget going forward, depending on our hiring, but we will concentrate on entry-level positions with that as best as possible. It's really something I've never done, but it was very interesting to see that, you know, we were thinking we might just get to 200, but we almost doubled it. So when you put all of our retirements together, even those that retired earlier, and allow them to avail themselves of the incentive, we're up to around $600,000 plus in now year-to-year savings because of this one-time expense. So we feel that we bring that resolution forward to you and hope that the board would accept that and pass it. And then the second one is about our $1 million year capital project, which is the focus of the field house at the intermediate school, middle school. And that resolution there is to accept the bids as recommended by Watchdog as well as Hunt. And Mike unfortunately couldn't be here because we're in the middle of the first construction project and he's ripping out ceilings and making sure we don't cut the wrong lines. And I know Greg is rushing back there after this meeting, so he doesn't want the wrong lines cut either. So, but we would ask you to approve and accept these bids, and we will be moving forward as post haste as possible.
Shall we do this as consent?
You can do this as consent just by making the motion as written, or you can separate them either way.
Okay, so I need a motion. for the board to take action on 4.1 and 4.2.
So moved.
Second. Questions, comments? Mr. Gabbard?
Well, without the main player being here, I don't know if we can answer this, but it was recommended that we not approve some of the general trades things.
You accept 5 and 6.
Mhm.
but not.
What happens if we need those in the course of the project?
We would, if we needed those, we'd go out to rebid if it wasn't accepted.
Okay.
Mr. Johnson?
I think this had been discussed before with regard to the retirement incentive, but was the additional retiree health insurance cost taken into consideration?
No, that has never been taken into consideration with any retirement incentive offered by the board. I believe going forward, we will have to revisit that going forward. But I did a sample calculation today because you can't control whether it's a family or an individual. If you took the midpoint, we'd still be over $200,000 in savings.
Okay.
Just because I thought that question might come up.
Any additional questions or comments? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of 4.1 and 4.2, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Okay, thank you. On to item 5, board discussion and questions. Any additional questions, comments from board members? Okay, hearing none. On to item 6, our public comment period. So do we have any questions or comments from members in the audience? No. All right, thank you. Any additional questions or comments? All right, seeing none, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Any additional questions, comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Any abstentions? Thank you, everyone.
Definitely.
Have a good evening.
I think like when they use the house.
Yeah, I know.